Millions of young professionals
Yeah.
are they're entering the workforce right now. And I mean, they are being taught to use AI completely wrong,
Oh, absolutely.
right? Because when we talk about these tools today, the promise is almost always about speed. Like, you think the goal is velocity. You type a question and boom, you get an answer in seconds.
Yeah, it's framed as, the ultimate shortcut to doing your job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what if the true superpower of AI isn't getting answers faster? What if it's actually forcing you to stop and think before you ever hit enter?
It's a complete paradigm shift, honestly, and it completely disrupts the prevailing narrative right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire tech industry is currently obsessed with reducing friction, right? Taking the path of least resistance from your initial thought to a generated output.
Right. Just make it as easy as possible.
Exactly. But looking at the research on Gen Z workplace coaching, treating these systems like a magic vending machine is actually setting up an entire generation of workers for failure.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand why the vending machine approach fails, we have to look at how companies are actually training their new hires right now.
Right.
I was reading through some of the onboarding strategies that major corporations use for early career professionals, and it honestly sounds like a trap.
It really does.
I mean, we are putting them through these intensive corporate boot camps that just completely ignore how to think.
It is a massive misallocation of resources, frankly.
Right.
If you look at modern enterprise training, there is a fundamental, almost systemic flaw.
Yeah?
It is entirely fixated on teaching software tools rather than, actual problem solving. We take Gen Z workers stepping into their first major roles, and we literally teach them where to click.
Right, like it's a typing class or something.
Exactly. They are navigating drop-down menus, memorizing specific user interfaces, and they're earning these, gamified completion badges for finishing a module on the latest dashboard.
It's like learning how to operate the air conditioning and the radio of a very specific car model, but never actually taking a driving lesson.
That is a perfect way to put it.
And the truly absurd part is that the software buttons they just spent, 3 weeks learning? They have a 6-month shelf life.
At best. I mean, at best. SaaS vendors are essentially forced to release sweeping UI redesigns constantly just to justify their subscription models.
Oh, right. They have to show they're doing something.
Exactly. So they move the buttons, they rename the features, they completely overhaul the dashboard layout.
Which means all that money the company just spent on software training, it just vanishes overnight.
Yep.
The interface changes, and the employee is back to square one.
Yeah.
Completely lost. Because they didn't learn a fundamental skill, they just memorized a map that no longer exists.
And that creates a highly dangerous downstream effect when they actually start their real work. Because these young professionals are trained to just look for the easy button, the mechanical sequence of clicks.
Right.
So they default to a behavior called casual prompting when they open up an AI tool. They bring that exact same surface-level engagement to a system that actually requires deep, structured thought.
I have absolutely been guilty of casual prompting.
I think we all have.
It's when you just sort of dump a vague, chatty query into the text box and just hope the machine can infer what you meant.
Exactly.
I remember a few months ago, I was rushing, and I literally typed something like, draft an update on the marketing project for the team, and I hit send. I just tossed a half-baked thought at the wall.
What's fascinating here is that we often blame the machine when that happens. We treat it like the AI just needs to get smarter or more intuitive to understand our vague requests.
Right, like why didn't it know what marketing project I meant?
Exactly. But the reality is the human user lacks the literacy to articulate a structured directive. We are treating a highly complex computational engine like a mind reader.
I mean, for you listening, think about your own workflows for a second. If you texted a human coworker a vague fragment like, make me a presentation on Q3, and then you just went to lunch, what would happen?
They'd be completely lost.
Right. They wouldn't know what data to include, who the audience is, what the tone should be. And if they handed you a terrible presentation that afternoon, you couldn't blame them.
No, not at all.
It's a massive failure to communicate on your part. But for some reason, we do this to machines all day long.
We do. And doing that to a machine initiates a very specific and highly destructive chain of events. That casual prompt doesn't just result in a bad output, it triggers a wasteful cycle known as the 10-turn chat loop.
The 10-turn chat loop.
Yeah.
Reading about the anatomy of this unstructured interaction was honestly entirely too relatable. But let's break down how this actually unfolds mechanically, because it starts with that exact scenario I just mentioned. Step 1 is the vague directive.
Right.
You attach a two-sentence prompt with zero context.
Which inevitably leads to step 2, which is the generic output.
Yeah.
Because the large language model has no parameters, no boundaries, it relies on statistical probability to just guess what you want.
It's just doing its best with nothing.
Exactly. So it responds with polite surface-level filler, or, far worse, it hallucinates assumptions to fill in the blanks you left. It hands you this highly polished, grammatically perfect, totally useless document.
And instead of taking a step back and realizing, oh, hey, we gave it bad instructions, we get annoyed.
Of course.
So we move to step 3, reactive reprompting. We fire off another casual reactionary prompt to fix the first one. Like, no, make it shorter, and you forgot to include the budget numbers.
Which launches the user into step 4, which is the absolute death spiral of productivity.
The death spiral.
Yeah, iterative drift. You end up in this 8 to 10 turn back and forth loop of micro adjustments. You're tweaking the tone, you're fixing the formatting, you're correcting the data. It hallucinated.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
It is. And after 10 turns of this, the worker either accepts a mediocre, diluted result, or they just get frustrated and give up entirely. They just decide it would have been faster to write it themselves.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If I'm just sitting at my laptop at home, messing around with a recipe, a 10-turn chat loop feels completely harmless, right?
Yeah.
It's just experimentation.
Yeah.
But when we look at this in a corporate environment, this is described as lazy thought mechanics running on expensive corporate compute.
That phrase is critical to understand. Expensive corporate compute. We have been conditioned to think of the cloud as this invisible, infinite, weightless resource.
Right, it's just out there in the ether.
But it's not. Every single time you hit enter on that chat box, physical servers in a massive data center somewhere have to spin up. GPUs are working to process that generation.
Wait, hold on. I need to push back on this for a second. You're telling me my sloppy two-sentence request for an email draft is noticeably draining the public power grid.
Yeah.
Isn't that an exaggeration? I mean, I'm just generating text. I'm not rendering a 3D movie here.
It sounds like an exaggeration until you look at the compounding math. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to multiply that 10-turn sloppy chat loop across, say, 10,000 employees in an enterprise.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. A single query to an advanced LLM takes significantly more electricity than a standard Google search.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. So when an employee is locked in an iterative drift, asking the machine to rewrite an email 6 times because they were too lazy to be clear the first time, every redundant turn burns through enterprise token budgets.
So it's costing the company actual money.
Real money. But more importantly, it rapidly escalates the compute load. Scaling this up, casual prompting is directly contributing to the massive rising energy demands that are currently straining local data centers and public infrastructure.
That completely reframes the whole issue for me. By being too lazy to structure a clear thought, we are literally draining the power grid.
Yeah.
It's an environmental and financial drain, but it's masquerading as a harmless, clean, white chat interface.
And because it's hidden behind that clean interface, the user never feels the friction of the cost.
Right, there's no meter running on the screen.
Exactly. They just feel the slight annoyance of having to ask the machine to fix something again. There's a total disconnect between the human behavior and the infrastructural impact.
So if these 10-turn loops are bleeding money and straining energy grids, how do we actually stop this? Because we can't just ban the tools. I mean, they're way too valuable.
No, you can't ban them.
We have to change the behavior at the source. And this is where the concept of the algorithmic brake comes in, right?
Yes. The algorithmic brake is the immediate solution. It is the absolute necessity of forcing a cognitive pause.
A cognitive pause.
Right. Before a single token of AI generation is processed, before the data center servers even hear about your request, you have to apply a rigorous mental model to your own thinking.
And the framework for this brake is called AIM, A-I-M. But let me stop right there because I know exactly what you listening to this are probably thinking. You're thinking, oh, great, another prompt template.
Right.
Just give me a fill-in-the-blank worksheet so I can get back to work. I personally hate prompt templates because they feel so rigid and, I don't know, unnatural.
That is a very common reaction, but it's crucial to understand that AIM is not a prompt template.
Dark.
It's not a script you copy and paste. It's a cognitive filter. It's a mechanism for forcing front-end clarity in your own mind before you engage with the machine.
Right.
The AIM framework stands for actor, input, and mission.
Let's break the mechanics of this down because it fundamentally changes how you interact with AI. Starting with the A actor.
Mhm.
This isn't just saying, act like a marketer, right? It goes deeper than that.
Much deeper. Actor forces you to define the exact stance, the authority, and the domain perspective you want the system to adopt.
So, like, who is driving this analysis?
Exactly. If you want it to review a contract, do you want it to read like a junior paralegal summarizing the points? Or do you want it to adopt the persona of a skeptical adversarial auditor looking for loopholes?
Oh, I see.
You are establishing the precise boundaries of its expertise.
You are defining a highly specific role. Okay, then we move to the I input. This is about establishing hard data boundaries.
Yes, input is where you strip away the irrelevant noise. You provide the exact context that is permitted for this task.
So you're giving it the ground rules.
Right. You are establishing the factual ground truth so the machine doesn't wander off and invent things. You're telling it, here are the Q3 revenue numbers, here is the client's past purchasing history.
Okay.
You are only allowed to reference this specific data. Do not bring in outside assumptions.
You're fencing it in. You are literally closing the door on hallucinations by restricting its diet.
Exactly.
And finally, the M mission.
Mission is about codifying explicit, non-negotiable success criteria. You have to define what a win looks like before the work begins.
What are the constraints, basically?
Right. What are the structural formatting requirements? Do you need a 3-paragraph executive summary tailored for a busy CEO? Or do you need a comprehensive bulleted list of risk factors for the engineering team?
I was trying to visualize this entire AIM process, and the best analogy I can think of is like prepping a master chef in a world-class kitchen.
Okay, I like that.
If you walk into that kitchen and just yell at the chef, make food, which is casual prompting, who knows what you're going to get.
Right.
You might get a bowl of cereal, you might get a 5-course seafood tasting menu.
Yeah.
And if you're allergic to shellfish, well, you're just out of luck.
And then you have to send the food back, argue with the chef, and wait for them to cook something else.
Yeah.
That is your iterative drift.
Exactly. But using the AIM framework is a totally different mechanism. You walk into the kitchen and say, okay, your role is a Michelin star pastry chef specializing in vegan desserts. That's the actor. You hand them a basket and say, you are only allowed to use these specific apples, this almond flour, and this agave syrup. Nothing else. That's the input.
Perfect.
And finally, you say, your task is to bake a gluten-free tart. It must be plated in exactly 30 minutes, and it must serve 4 people. That is the mission.
That analogy perfectly captures the mechanism. Because notice what you did in that scenario.
I made them do exactly what I wanted.
Well, yes, but you took on the cognitive heavy lifting. You didn't just passively ask for a result. You engineered the environment for success. You governed the process.
Ah, okay.
And when you apply that rigorous critical thinking to an AI, the dynamics of human-AI collaboration fundamentally shift.
The contrast between those two approaches is staggering, really.
Okay.
Let's actually look at the before and after snapshot of this collaboration.
Okay.
Without applying that algorithmic brake, we saw the trap. 10 sloppy iterations, high token waste, diluted, mediocre output, and crucially, 0 skill acquisition for the worker.
Yeah, they didn't learn how to structure a business problem.
No, they just learned how to complain to a chatbot.
But when you introduce the AAM framework, the entire process condenses. You issue one structured directive, which leads to single-pass precision.
Single-pass precision.
Yes. You get high-value output on the very first try. And, most importantly, the human user has sharpened their own critical thinking skills by forcing themselves to define the parameters.
Hitting enter once and getting exactly what you need. I mean, what we're really talking about here is front-end optimization.
Exactly.
By taking the time to structure your thoughts using actor, input, mission, you are completely eliminating the trial and error generation. You are cutting the token waste at the literal source of the prompt.
This raises an important question about how we view optimization, too. Usually when we talk about optimizing technology, we talk about making the physical servers faster or, writing more efficient code.
Right, hardware upgrades.
But in this paradigm, the human user is performing the front-end optimization step. By forcing ourselves to think with clarity, we are directly reducing the data center energy load. We are optimizing our own minds to relieve the digital infrastructure.
Cognitive conservation.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that concept. And that cognitive conservation is, I think, the bridge to the long-term career implications for you, the listener.
Yes, it is.
Because we have to zoom out from the immediate mechanics of prompting and look at what this means for your actual trajectory in the workforce.
This brings us full circle back to those corporate training boot camps we discussed at the beginning.
Oh, right.
Remember the gamified badges and the software
The
buttons?
buttons that disappear every 6 months,
Oh.
yeah, they're totally fleeting. But the ability to structure a directive,
That stays.
the ability to apply an algorithmic brake to your own thinking, govern a process, and direct a computational engine, that endures for an entire career.
Because real AI literacy isn't about memorizing keyboard shortcuts or knowing which interface button does what. It is about developing enduring capabilities.
It's the ability to structure a mental model, like we did with AIM. It's the ability to manage strict data boundaries. And importantly, it's the ability to audit synthetic outputs through a pessimism-first lens.
A pessimism-first lens, that is such a vital skill. Meaning, you don't just blindly trust the beautifully formatted document the machine spits out.
Never.
You look at it critically, assuming it might have flaws, because you actually understand the mechanics of how the machine works.
Yeah.
You know it's just predicting text based on the boundaries you set. It's not thinking on its own.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And because of this massive shift in how work gets done, we need entirely new metrics in the workplace to measure success. The old vanity metrics have to go.
Nobody cares how many prompts you wrote today or if you got a shiny certificate for sitting through an AI webinar.
Right.
Those don't correlate to actual business value at all.
No. The real measures of operational AI literacy moving forward are execution of revenue, or ETR, and learner gain per hour, LGH. Let's actually explain how a manager would measure these mechanically, because they sound a bit academic. How does ETR, execution to revenue, actually work in practice?
So ETR is a hard metric of efficiency and outcome. It isn't measuring how many hours you spent in the AI tool.
Okay.
It measures whether the time you spent upfront structuring an AIM prompt actually generated an output that moved the needle.
Got it.
For example, if you spend 15 minutes perfectly structuring a prompt for a sales outreach sequence, and that sequence lands a new client, your ETR is incredibly high.
Right.
But if you spend an hour in a 10-turn chat loop generating a massive, useless report that just sits in a drawer, your ETR is 0.
That makes total sense. You are measuring the business impact of the execution, not the volume of the chatter.
Exactly.
And what about learner gain per hour, LGH?
LGH measures cognitive compounding. Are you actually learning the domain you are working in, or are you just outsourcing your cognition to a server farm?
Ooh, outsourcing cognition.
Yeah. If using the AI helps you grasp a complex financial model faster, and next week you can structure even better inputs because you understand the domain better, your learner gain per hour is high.
Okay.
If you are just using it to do your homework so you don't have to think, you are actively degrading your own value.
So what does this all mean? When we distill all of this down, the UI churn, the energy drain, the AM framework, the new metrics, we arrive at an incredibly powerful final thesis.
We do.
And it is a massive wake-up call for managers, for educators, and for anyone relying on these tools to do their job.
The core truth is this. We do not need to teach Gen Z how to chat with machines. We need to teach them how to direct compute.
Direct compute.
Yes. AI shouldn't be doing the thinking for them. It should be acting as a rigorous cognitive coach, forcing them to think with greater precision.
We had to treat AI as a precision instrument, rather than a magic 8-ball that just dispenses answers. That upfront structure, that cognitive discipline, is the ultimate career superpower. Because long after this specific chat interface is obsolete, long after the buttons have moved and the software is replaced, the person who knows how to structure a complex problem will always be the most valuable person in the room.
They will be the ones leading the strategy and directing the infrastructure, while everyone else is still stuck in a 10-turn loop trying to get a decent email drafted.
So to quickly recap our journey today, we started by looking at the massive trap of casual prompting, how our obsession with speed and software buttons has led to a workforce that just throws vague, unstructured queries at machines.
Right.
We exposed the hidden bleed of those 10-turn chat loops, realizing that lazy thinking literally drains corporate budgets and puts an unnecessary strain on the global energy grid.
And then we explored the pivot, which is applying the algorithmic brake. We moved the cognitive heavy lifting to the front of the process by using the AIM framework.
Defining the actor, establishing strict input boundaries, and codifying the mission. We saw how that front-end optimization leads directly to single-pass precision, entirely transforming the dynamic from a messy, frustrating chat into high-value execution. And finally, we realized that directing compute is an enduring, career-long capability that outlasts any software update.
It is a fundamental evolution in how human beings approach knowledge work.
It really is. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over, something that builds on everything we've talked about today.
Okay.
If treating AI as a precision instrument forces us to structure our own thoughts so rigorously, if we absolutely have to clearly define the actor, the input, and the mission just to get a good result from a piece of software,
Yeah.
how long will it be until we start demanding this exact same clarity when communicating with our human colleagues?
That is a fascinating implication. I mean, it could completely change corporate culture.
Right. Will the AIM framework become the new standard for human-to-human collaboration? If we learn to communicate this perfectly with servers, maybe we'll finally stop sending each other those vague two-sentence emails that just waste everyone's time.
We can only hope.
We can only hope. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. The next time you find yourself staring at that blinking cursor in a chat box, take a breath, hit the algorithmic brake, and direct to compute. We'll see you next time.